Good morning, boys and girls. Today we're going to be learning about temperature and how to use a thermometer. So does anybody know what a thermometer is? Raise your hand. Okay, so a thermometer is a tool that we use that tells us how hot or how cold something is. And how hot or cold is the temperature. So before we get started, I'm going to play a quick little thermometer song video that just gives you a gist and an idea of what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to go ahead and get that started.
Mercury goes up, it's getting hotter. When the mercury goes down, it's getting colder. Thermometers are better tools, telling us how hot or cool. Thermometers tell temperature. Check out the temperature, 32 degrees. Liquid turns to solid and water will freeze. Check out the temperature, 212. Water gets hot and it might make it out because it's wet. But somewhere in the middle it's 68. Room temperature feels really great. When mercury goes up, it's getting hotter. When the mercury goes down, it's getting colder. Thermometers are better tools, telling us how hot or cool. Thermometers tell temperature. Everyone can be a meteorologist, studying the weather like how hot or cold it is. Because the mercury in the thermometer, down means colder and up means hotter. Don't forget digital thermometers, they are even easier, just look at the numbers. When mercury goes up, it's getting hotter. When the mercury goes down, it's getting colder. Thermometers are better tools, telling us how hot or cool. Thermometers tell temperature.
Okay, so that was our quick little song about temperature and a thermometer. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the thermometer that I have that we're going to use in our assignment. So this is our thermometer. As you can tell, there's the red stuff in the middle. It's called mercury. And when it goes up, that means the temperature is getting hotter. And when it goes down, that means the temperature is getting colder. So as we learned in the video, 32 degrees Fahrenheit is freezing point, and 212 degrees is our boiling point. So this thermometer is actually in Celsius. In our next lesson, we're going to learn how to do the conversions from Celsius to Fahrenheit. But for just the gist of learning how to use a thermometer, we're going to go ahead and just use this one that's in Celsius. So we're going to start off with, and I want everybody to get out a sheet of paper and copy what I'm putting on the board because we're going to do this activity as a class before you break off and do your lab that I have for y'all. So I have a cup of ice water. So in my ice water is just a cup that I filled it up with some room temperature water and added probably 8 ice cubes in there. And then I have a cup of hot water. And the cup of hot water is just hot water out of the sink. I didn't warm it up or anything like that. This is just like average hot water when you go to wash your hands. And then our last one is room temp water. So that water is just room temperature. And we're going to go through and I'm going to show you how to use a thermometer. And we're going to write down what the temperature is on the board. And then I'll go over what y'all are going to do next. So the first water that I'm starting off with is going to be our cup of ice water. Now when you put a thermometer in a cup of water, you want to make sure you don't touch the bottom of the cup. If you do that, it's going to skew your results. It won't be as accurate. And I also want you to remember that this isn't the only type of thermometer you can use. There's thermometers that are used when you're cooking. There's thermometers that that are like the one that was in our video that sit outside to tell you the temperature every day. There's digital ones that tells you the temperature. There's thermometers on our car that come up in a little spot, sometimes on our mirrors, that tells us the temperature. So there's many different types of thermometers, but for today's activity, we're just going to use this one. So I'm going to start off with our ice water, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our thermometer and I'm going to stick it in. I know it's kind of hard to see, but it's going down. So I'm going to leave it in here for probably like 10 more seconds and let it do its thing. And then I'm going to take it out. And we want to make sure we're not touching the bottom of our cup when we're doing this so we can get the most accurate results. So this says that we are about at 1 degree Celsius for our ice water. So I'm going to write on here, our ice water is 1 degree Celsius. Now, just like I said, we normally use Fahrenheit when we're talking about temperature, but just since this thermometer is in Celsius, we are just going to do it that way today. Our next lesson we'll learn about how to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit to find out the temperature in Fahrenheit. So our next cup of water we're going to use is our, let's do our hot water next. So my hot water is probably cooled down just a tad bit from when I did it, but we're going to do the same thing again. So we see that it's a little above 1, our thermometer. So I'm going to stick it in, leave it in here for probably 15 seconds or so. Remember not to touch the bottom of the cup. It's slowly creeping up there. Okay, so our hot water is at 4 degrees Celsius. And like I said, if you were to get this fresh out of the sink or if you were to warm up your water, it would be a little bit more than that. But because I've had this water sitting here until we started, it's cooled down a little bit. So our hot water is 4 degrees Celsius. And then now we're going to do our room temperature water. So I'm going to take my cup. And our thermometer is slowly going down to where it started. So we're going to go ahead and stick it in. Remember not to touch the bottom of the cup. And we're going to leave it for about 15 seconds. Just like we did all of our other cups. Okay, so our room temperature water is about at like 2.5. So it's kind of going down a little bit, but it was at 2.5 up here. So for our room temperature water, I want you to just write 2.5 degrees Celsius. So we can see that our ice water was a good bit colder than our room temperature water, about 1.5 degrees. Now, again, if my ice water was completely fresh and, some of the ice hadn't melted and it was, fresh ice water, it probably would have been lower than that. But our ice water was at 1 degree. Our hot water was at 4 degrees Celsius. So it was about, I don't know, let's see. Our hot water was a little bit more than our room temperature water. Again, the hot water, if I had gotten it right out of the faucet or warmed it up in the microwave, then it would have given given us a higher reading, but for this experiment, it was at 4 degrees Celsius. And then our room temperature water was at 2.5 degrees Celsius. So you can tell that our room temperature water, pretty average. Our ice water was a little bit colder, and our hot water was a good bit above the 2 other cups. So for y'all's assignment, I'm going to have different cups spread out throughout the room. I'm going to have cups with juice in it, cups with water in it, ice water, hot juice, just so you can go through and kind of test and see which cup is the hottest, and which liquid is the hottest, and which is the coldest. So I'm going to have those set up around the room. I'm also going to pass out a sheet for you to keep your data on. I want everybody to try to do this on your own, and then if I see that you're struggling, we'll go ahead and get where you can get with a partner, okay? So this would be the time that the kids would go and do the lab, and then I bring them all back, and then I would have the students write down 3 things that they learned today, and give it to me as like an exit slip. And once they're done, I'd have them raise their hand. I'd come take up their exit slip, and then I'd also tell them that I would want them to go home and tell somebody something they learned today. I like to do this in the afternoons and just have the kids go home and tell people what they've learned, just, to reiterate what they've done today. And I also would like for them to go home and see if they have a thermometer at their house. If they do, see if it's one that's outside, one they used to cook with, anything like that. Try to get some practice with it, because the more practice they have, the better they'll get at using them. Thank you.